Post-traumatic growth is sometimes also confused with resilience. And while they share some similarities and can occur at the same time, they don't necessarily lead to the same outcomes. Resilience is defined as the ability to bounce back after a challenging life event. Post-traumatic growth, on the other hand, is more action-oriented, and it happens when we choose actively to reflect on the traumatic event or the challenging life experience and our lives, examining and rebuilding our actual core beliefs, and choosing to do the sometimes difficult and messy work of exploring, contemplating, and processing our thoughts and feelings about the event. You know how life throws us curveballs? I believe in the incredible human capacity to heal and grow from life's challenges. We all face adversity in life, whether it's dealing with loss, overcoming personal challenge, or navigating mental wellness. Nobody gets through this journey of life without a few storms. Welcome to Transformative Journeys. I'm your host, Johanna, and through various challenges on my journey, including the devastating loss of my son in a workplace tragedy in 2006, I have navigated a messy path towards healing and rebuilding. It's been a journey of self-discovery that has taught me invaluable lessons about coping, healing, and transforming my experiences into tools for personal growth. Each week, I'll share my thoughts and insights and dig into strategies that can empower you to rediscover yourself, learn about transforming pain into power, building confidence to navigate life's challenges, and cultivating a life of meaning and joy. Join me on this journey of exploration and transformation. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite platform and tap the bell icon to be notified when new episodes drop. How has trauma shaped your life? Have you ever wondered if you could truly move past your pain and move forward in a positive way? There's no doubt that trauma and grief changes people, and it's normal to wish and hope for life to return to the way it was before the trauma. But the truth is that it seldom does. Many people, though, who have experienced a traumatic event discover that what they went through can serve as a catalyst for transformation, and they often emerge with a stronger sense of identity, deeper relationships, and a renewed appreciation for life. But why is that? This week, we're building on last week's discussion about building from the ashes to explore what can happen when we learn to navigate through our pain and use it as that catalyst for transformation. So let's dig into that. Welcome back to Transformative Journeys with Johanna, and guess what? I'm Johanna. This week, we're diving into a powerful topic, from surviving to thriving post-traumatic growth. Some events in life can be incredibly challenging, and the experience of grief and trauma can feel insurmountable. However, many people find a path to self-discovery and emotional resilience through those ordeals. So, what exactly is post-traumatic growth? In essence, it's the theory that it's possible to experience positive mental, emotional, or spiritual shifts as a result of a stressful or challenging life experience. And that goes against the common belief that the only outcome of trauma is suffering. And it suggests instead that traumatic experiences or grief can lead to meaningful personal development. And studies show that there tends to be 3 primary ways that people experience the grief process involved after a challenging or traumatic event. For a smaller number of people, it seems their happiness will decrease and they will sort of struggle in their sadness for the remainder of their life. The majority of people, it seems, will be unhappy for a time, but over time will eventually begin to find happiness again and return to a similar level of happiness, even if it's perhaps in a different way to their pre-trauma state, for lack of a better word. And then for another small group of people, while their happiness decreases initially, it ultimately increases to a level where they perceive their overall happiness to be higher than it was prior to the traumatic event. And there's no denying that trauma and grief can have profound effects on our mental, emotional, and even our physical health. But for many, processing that trauma in a healthy way can lead to improvements in, like I said, our personal relationships, and a new or renewed sense of purpose and an increased appreciation for life. So first, let's be clear that not every stressful experience we encounter is necessarily traumatic. And conversely, not every traumatic experience is going to have lingering, distressing effects in our life or on our emotions. However, if you experience something that impacts your life in a negative way, it's reassuring to know that it is possible in time to move forward with resilience and with growth. Post-traumatic growth is sometimes also confused with resilience. And while they share some similarities and can occur at the same time, they don't necessarily lead to the same outcomes. Resilience is defined as the ability to bounce back after a challenging life event. Post-traumatic growth, on the other hand, is more action-oriented, and it happens when we choose actively to reflect on the traumatic event or the challenging life experience and our lives, examining and rebuilding our actual core beliefs and choosing to do the sometimes difficult and messy work of exploring, contemplating, and processing our thoughts and feelings about the event. And this whole process isn't easy, and it can at times, like I said, be messy. It involves navigating our way through our pain and our confusion and fear, and sometimes it requires us to be willing to dig into stuff we thought that we had left behind us. But many people who have faced trauma find that their grief and the emotional upheaval associated with that event can act as a catalyst, like I said, for transformation, where they emerge with a whole new worldview and a more profound understanding of themselves and where they feel their place is in the world. Our response to trauma is dependent on a lot of different factors, and it's unique to the person who experienced it. Things like the type of the trauma, whether you've dealt with trauma previously, what kind of support system you already have in place, and even your own personality mean that our own responses to it will differ widely. Many experts in the field agree, though, that there are some common elements to moving forward from trauma and facilitating growth. One of those elements is education, and not formal education. It has nothing to do with whether you graduated from high school or not, or whether you have some sort of degree. It's about what you believed before that is no longer true for you. Have your fundamental core beliefs been shattered, or just disrupted or changed a little? And recognizing what it is that's changed and how is the first step to figuring out how to move forward with this new belief system that you've developed and move forward in a positive way. Another thing is processing traumatic memories. And there's actually a bit of controversy around some of this. I read some studies where the writers believe that discussing traumatic experiences can be beneficial. And then I read others where they believe that it's unhelpful or even painful. Well, talking about painful experiences is, hey, it's going to be painful. And then there's some clinicians that believe it can be unique to the individual and the situation. And I'm kind of that mindset. But as painful as it might be, examining our thoughts and feelings about a painful event can be an important step for healing and making sense of it. That might include a period of grief for who or what was lost, and processing the emotions associated with that grief, such as sadness, anger, fear, even guilt. And this is an important step in transforming our distressing thoughts into more productive reflections and using them to determine how we'd like them to shape the narrative that we're going to create about our future. Emotional regulation is another one. In order for us to move forward, we need to be in the right frame of mind. And learning and understanding how to manage our negative emotions, or all of our emotions really, and developing coping skills for when those negative emotions creep up is a cornerstone for healing. There are so many simple strategies for helping regulate our emotional responses, including things like focused breathing, mindfulness, which I've talked about before because I swear by it as the strongest tool in my toolbox. And that's not to be confused with meditation. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, I don't want you to confuse mindfulness with meditation. And reframing your thoughts. And with a little bit of exploration, it shouldn't be too difficult to find one or two ways that work for you. So I suggest finding one or two that are helpful to you and practicing them regularly, not just when you're triggered. And if you want some more information on what some of those tools could potentially be, I did talk about them in a previous podcast, so go back and listen. So another one is, area is reconstruction and integration is what they call it. And this involves actually redefining who you are and how you want to move forward. This is you narrating your own story. This is you writing the version of your story that you want moving forward. For lots of people, this includes doing something that benefits others. Sometimes that's referred to as engaging in service. And service to others can be a powerful tool leading to inner growth. Identifying things that we are grateful for, expressing gratitude, and showing compassion and empathy for others is often a catalyst for reframing our own experience and helping us uncover personal strengths that we didn't realize that we had. So what can you do right now? Post-traumatic growth, whether it happens naturally or with formal interventions like therapy, takes time. And although there are lots in addition to the ones I'm going to talk about today, here are some of the strategies I have found most helpful over the years that you can give a try right now to begin building your coping and resilience. So self-reflection. Self-reflection can be yucky sometimes. And there's different forms of self-reflection, but the one I find most helpful is journaling. And journaling can be a great way to process your thoughts and uncover insights about yourself. It's sometimes easier to articulate your thoughts and feelings by writing them out than it is to just have them rolling around in your head, creating a jumbled mess. At least that's how it works for me. And you don't need to write a novel. Some people find it's easier to journal in bullet points. Others like that free-form journaling of just, journaling every thought that comes to mind. Just make sure that if you're doing some sort of short form journaling, like bullet journaling, make sure you spend a bit of time exploring what's behind the thoughts that you're jotting down and what the emotions are that come up with those thoughts that you're writing down. Another, and like I said, this is the heavy hitter in my resiliency toolbox. And that's incorporating a little bit of mindfulness into your day. And mindfulness doesn't need to take a lot of time. Even a few minutes can have a positive impact on your emotional, mental, and even your physical well-being. There are well-established physiological benefits to practicing a little bit of mindfulness. It can be incorporated into lots of the tasks that you do every day, repetitively, without thinking about them. You can mindfully brush your teeth. You can mindfully wash your dishes. You can walk in nature mindfully. You can even cuddle your pet in a mindful way. And if you'd like a copy of my Mindfulness Anywhere toolkit, I will drop a link in the show notes for you. Another important thing is to seek support. You need to surround yourself with understanding friends or communities of support who can provide positive comfort and encouragement. And the people in your circle don't have to have the solution to the struggles that you're dealing with. You just want them to be willing to listen to you without judging. They don't have to give you advice, as long as you have a trusting relationship with them where you can talk. Engaging in meaningful activities. Pursuing activities that bring meaning and purpose to your life can provide an invaluable perspective to your own situation. And finding ways to contribute to others by volunteering or pursuing a new hobby that fuels your joy are great ways to help begin to foster a sense of purpose. And then another important tool in my toolbox is incorporating self-care. Understand and internalize that self-care is not self-indulgent, and it can be as individual as you are. For some, being active is part of their self-care routines. For others, being taken care of with the occasional massage or pedicure is what they need. Still, others might find that for them, the best acts of self-care are escaping into a good book or a film. And these are mini self-care tools. I'll get into the difference between coping strategies and real true self-care in a couple of episodes down the road. But self-care is critical for building resilience, and it should be part of your life on a regular basis, not just when you are dealing with a challenging event or you're under stress. So when my son died, I have had to deal with a lot of shit in my life, but nothing came close to this. And at the time, I felt like I would be broken forever. At times, I really didn't think I would recover from it, but I did. I not only recovered from it, I have built a life of deep happiness and purpose from the shattered pieces that were left behind. It involved working through the really shitty stuff and digging deep sometimes into not just my feelings around my loss at the time, but around some baggage I'd been carrying for a very, very long time. I didn't do it alone though, and it didn't just happen. It took some hard work and some determination. And for me, it took finding a community that comprised not just support from others who are working through coping with the aftermath, of workplace tragedies, but also the opportunity for advocacy, which has been a huge part of my healing process. That was the turning point for me, because there I began to learn coping strategies. And I connected with others who understood both, the grief of loss and the complex issues around my particular kind of loss. And with their help, I began to heal. But most importantly, I found a why. And that gave me motivation to move forward in a positive way. Advocating for change doesn't fix my broken pieces. They're still there. But it provided me with a sense of purpose and meaning, and it served for me as the catalyst on my journey from surviving to thriving. Today we explored the concept of transforming pain into purpose, rethinking letting our experiences shape us versus using our experiences to shape our future, and taking the sometimes difficult first steps towards channeling our pain towards something greater than ourselves. And as we wrap up, I want you to remember that there is no set timeline for processing trauma, and everyone heals at a different place. Your journey is uniquely yours, and it is so important to have self-compassion and patience during the process. Of course, you're going to have bad days from time to time, but developing the skills to deal with triggers or challenges will help you spend most of your time stepping forward. Embracing the challenges can lead to unexpected growth and, yes, to resilience. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Feeling inspired? Share this episode with someone who needs it today. Leave me a review. It helps others find these stories, and I would love to hear your thoughts. If you're interested in learning more about how you can transform your own journey, stay tuned for upcoming episodes or visit my website, www.transformativejourneys.ca. You'll be able to subscribe to receive notifications when a new podcast drops, and I will send you my resiliency toolkit absolutely free. You can also find me on Instagram at transformativejourneys.johanna. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite platform and tap the bell icon so you'll be notified when a new episode drops. In the next episode, we're going to be talking about building mental resilience, kind of building on this toolkit we're developing through the last few episodes. Why do some people seem better at coping with those ups and downs of life? Of course, everyone's different. We have different pasts, different experiences that contribute to our ability to bounce back from challenges. But resiliency isn't something you're either born with or not. It's something we can develop by learning strategies to help us adapt to change and cope with life's difficulties. Until then, this is Johanna reminding you, It doesn't matter if you fall. What matters is how well you bounce. This is Transformative Journeys. See you next time. Hey, just a disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not replace the advice of a medical or mental health expert. I am not a licensed counselor or therapist. In fact, I don't have a degree in anything, and there are no fancy letters after my name. I'm a full-time student at the School of Hard Knocks, University of Life, where I figure I'll graduate when I take my last breath. In other words, I'm just Johanna, a fellow human being on my journey through this thing called life, and your guide on this transformative journey.